There was never any hocus pocus. It was what you are doing. You are responsible for what you're doing. And he tried to din that into us. It's your responsibility. If you lift your arm, you've done it. If you don't lift your arm, again, it's your responsibility. You have decided not to lift your arm. And when my aunt had lessons with him in 1911, she found him a very difficult, rather hard taskmaster. And she was desperately anxious to learn this technique. And all he would say to her, how can I possibly give you a new experience if you keep on doing the things that you're accustomed to doing? And she was trying so hard to do the right thing. And of course, the harder you try, the more you're going in the wrong direction. Then Irene Tasker, 1 year later, had lessons. And they said, somebody said she broke out in a cold sweat. That was the kind of teaching in those days. It was really fierce. Because the teachers had not yet learned to do the things slowly. By the time I knew Alexander in 1928, he was a dear old gentleman. Totally different. You wouldn't have recognized it. Now, what I want to point out is that FM changed his technique for teaching all the time, and his attitude to a pupil, it became more and more refined. Basically, he was tremendously kind. If he had somebody as a pupil who thought they knew everything, he would either take a lot of trouble with them to try and make them improve that drive to know everything. But if he had a pupil who was very badly injured or who had a lot of problems or a rather sensitive person, he was incredibly kind to them. And he would calm them down and calm them down, particularly if there'd been people. One lady we had with torticollis, which means you have a head. She had a tremendous head swing round to one side. She couldn't stop it. It was going on like that the whole time. And her left shoulder was up. She looked absolutely exhausted, and the day after day, she was a middle-aged lady. And Alexander managed to somehow or other, by working on her back mostly, he got it so that instead of her heaving like this, he got her so that she was going back. And that back began to give her support, and the heavy swing to one side didn't happen anymore, or not so much. And it was wonderful to watch the release on their faces when quite suddenly they were letting go and letting go and letting go. And I think when you are having a wonderful lesson from somebody, or particularly with Alexander, you went up and up and up and up. He built you up, your head and your back, and your head and your back, the two together, and sort of head and back, and that. You felt absolutely wonderful. You could go outside and push over buses. But you thought you had learned something new. What you were doing, you were just letting go. Your own tensions were pulling you down. Now he could give you that support, which you have lost in some way, with your back and your head, and then up you go. And then you are letting go, and from then onwards, also, you're looking outwards. You're looking out to see what's going on over there, and over there, and over here. It is so deep in us to do the right thing. I've been absolutely amazed in Melbourne. I have had people who are doing a training course, and they come to me or practically in tears about 5 months or so before it's time for them to get their certificate. So, I don't think I'll get my, I don't think I'll pass, I don't think I know enough, and there's the last day kind of threatening them. I think that's dreadful. That they should have that fear, and that there is something wrong has got into that. That fear shouldn't be there. We are using yourself, all of you, as you're sitting now. You are, as you, if you want to, you just think of, now my aunt, when I was small, she taught me keeping my length. She said, keep your length, dear. Now the dear is very important because it makes it friendly. And you say, keep your length, dear. And she showed me. She took my head forward and up and lengthened me and showed me how to keep that going when I was writing or painting or playing the piano. Or if she caught me slumping around somewhere, she'd say, you're coming down, dear. You see, now, up you come. It was as simple as that, because my up and down, my length, so to speak, was then part of what I was doing. It's not separated out. And it was my responsibility. If you're coming down, you're coming down. Nobody else is. You're coming down. And appropriate, I know what you mean, but it's an in-between word. With Alexander, everything was absolutely clear, yes or no. But with something like Alexander's work, it's about living and about change and about the differences, the constant differences that we're going through. And if you got the Chinese symbol of yin-yang, it's that constant balance all the time. And throughout our life we've got that balance. But if we use too much of our yes and right and wrong on it, we throw ourselves, maybe we waste an awful lot of time. The clear yes and no is appropriate. Does that sound too harsh? And the idea of end-gaining, yeah. Well, we were end-gaining when we were students. We saw Alexander using his hands, and we felt Alexander's hands. And so we thought, well, that's what we got to learn. See? So we're all using our hands. And up, see? Then in our training course, that didn't always work. And we tried on each other. And I remember one day, Margie Barstow, she was sitting in the chair. I think we got her into the chair. She must have landed with an awful thump because we couldn't get her out again. And she could have just got up and walked away, you know. But no, we were being very precise. We wanted to do the right thing. We went along to Miss Webb. We said, Margie's stuck in the chair. We can't get her out. And so my aunt came along, had a look at Margie, and said, well, look at her, she's coming down. So she took her head and back, and up she went away. It was all very enthusiastic, but FM just let it happen. And after a while, so Walter tells me, FM got desperate. He said, all they want to do is use their hands. I'm looking for the one that works like me. Well, that's how we thought he was working, with his hands. But what he was doing was so subtle. It was his observation, what he had learned over the years, how he could read a person. After I went to Australia, I went to New Guinea. And somebody said to me, why did you go to New Guinea where you could lose everything Alexander taught you? But I think you can do your Alexander for a bit and then go away and try something else. You won't forget it.